Art South Asia Project. We're a UK-based arts education and development nonprofit, and we were established in 2021. Our mission is to facilitate and expand networks of collaboration and research, documenting and highlighting narratives and histories of modern contemporary South Asian visual and applied arts. We support initiatives through grants, creating opportunities for engagement through partnerships and with individuals and institutions. And we create programs around research, archiving, and publication and professional development through workshops, talks, symposia, and fellowships. Alrighty, so we're here to talk about one of our most recent programs, which is Art Exchange Moving Image, and it's a pleasure to have three of our curators here, Sandev, Sarah, and Kehkasha. So a little bit of intro about Art Exchange Moving Image. We started working on this program 2024. So in collaboration with the British Council and Lux, and this cross-cultural professional development program was designed for early and mid-career visual arts curators from both Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. Art South Asia Project was really lucky to come along and work on the South Asian outfit of this program, which launched in 2020. Well, I already said that, but launched in 2024. And the curators were selected from Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. And British Council, Lux, and ASAP have worked together to foster a meaningful exchange of ideas and practices between the selected curators and moving image artists and artworks from the British Council Visual Art Collection. So as a culmination of their research and engagement with our three partners, British Council, Lux, and ASAP, all five curators have now all put on their exhibitions in their home countries, in their institutions. And so today we're really here to kind of celebrate these exhibitions and give Sandev, Sarah, and Kehkasha an opportunity to talk about their research and present what they've been working on for the past year. And in next month, we will be having another event with the two other curators, Anuj Malhotra and Bunu Dangana. So I'm just going to do a few points of housekeeping before I hand over to Sandev, Kehkasha, and Sarah to introduce themselves. So please note that this session is going to take place for about an hour and there's going to be time for questions after. Please do stay on mute during the duration of the session. And if you need to see speakers, you can change to gallery or follow host view and pin speakers, or you could just have us all in a big group, which is also really nice. At the end, there will be time for questions. So if you have questions as it goes, as you're listening, please do put the questions in the chat and we will speak to them. But I'll also do a little invitation to ask questions at some point. As I said at the beginning, we are being recorded, and if you have missed or if someone has missed any part of this talk, we will put it on our website in the coming weeks. So I'm going to just go around, and if each of you is happy to introduce yourself, maybe Kehkasha, you could start.
Sure. So greetings everyone, wherever you are. We are in different time zones right now. So I'm Kehkasha Sabah. I'm an independent curator, a writer, and researcher from Bangladesh with a decade of expertise converging art, culture, and pedagogy and technology together. This is how I like to curate my exhibition, like mixing um, different genre or different disciplines. So uh, my practice based currently I'm in working in my higher studies in the US, and my practice based research is informed by feminist care ethics and um, post-human thinking, especially the ideas around the situated knowledge and institution building. And over the past decades, I have worked in the context where this idea was less felt like theory, then it was more like a necessity, particularly when I had to navigate a fragile art ecosystem and try to bridge the gaps between artist, institution, and audience. So therefore, my practice is often merged with this interdisciplinary way, and where my core interest lies in the contemporary, introducing contemporary new media art and artists, especially moving image time-based practices, which entice further experiment with process-based and multisensory exhibition approach that can create a site of knowledge, encouraging the audience to engage art as not only as a viewer, but as an active listener and participants. So this is me. I have worked locally and internationally with several projects, and yeah, here I am. Worked with Arts South Asia projects as a curator from Bangladesh, and I'm glad to participate in this program.
Thanks.
Over to Sandev.
Thanks, folks, for having me. Thanks, Kehkasha and Mala and ASAP and Lux and British Council and all the many partners that are involved in this. My name is Sandev Handy, and I work as a sort of curator arts worker between independently as part of a collective, as part of a research studio, and as a full-time job as part of the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Rajper. I am a Pakistani interdisciplinary curator and practitioner. I'm based in Pakistan, and my practice spans across curation, design, visual communication, and cultural production. Right now, I'm currently working at the Pakistan National Council of the Arts, which is the National Art Institute under the government of Pakistan. And I'm also one of the core curators for Lahore Digital Arts Festival, which is Pakistan's first and only digital.
Thank you, Sarah. In terms of the format, each Kehkasha, Sandev, and Sarah are all going to present the exhibitions they've been working on and their research. So I'm going to start with Kehkasha. Over to you. Please do start sharing your screen, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Can you see it?
Yes. You might want to make it full screen.
Yeah, that's the problem. Whenever I make it full screen, you guys will lose the screen. I will try to.
Just so that we don't see your folders. If you want to keep those private. There you go.
Is it okay right
That's
now?
perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So, when we got this whole residency, come like after the residency, uh, maybe I will start from the beginning. So when we are offered with this fellowship, so there was a part of residency, and another part was like showcasing the British Council artwork, moving image artwork collection, and also we have ways to develop in in relation with those collection, we have the chance to develop our own theme of curatorial project. And from there, I picked on several, like I feel connected with the three artworks, like several artworks, but I finally chose three British Council artwork. And then I start to developing what is needed. Like I said, in my curatorial practice, I want to always look at my own context, the place I'm living in, and what is happening around it. And during that time, there was in Dhaka, particularly the student movement happened. So the urban lifestyle, so everything was very chaotic. And for in my personal life as well, I lost my father. So in together, I was in a kind of mental trauma or like a feeling that I cannot explain by myself, like how to navigate with this pain and grief. And that was like turning on very heavily onto me. And I see a lot of people around me was also feeling the same kind of distressed and traumatized with all the things around it. So when I start looking at the moving image collection from the British Council, so three artwork came into my mind that really talks about that connects with or like connects viewer with the that kind of grief or kind of empathy. So I started with a poem of Miller Williams, Compassion. So where the line was like, have compassion for everyone you meet, even if they don't want it. don't know what words are going down there where the spirit meets the bone. So this line like kept with me, and I started to produce the exhibition, the whole narrative around this, the connection of spirit and bone, the body and mind, and this dualistic nature of the interplay of our emotions and our activities every day. So this is how my initial concept developed. And then moving on to the further production or the further design of the exhibition, I invited more 13 artists altogether. So my whole exhibition was designed with 16 artists presenting in Bangladesh, and I designed the whole program in 2 chapters. So mm, my main idea was to hold the essence of moving image, uh, like not in a literal way or academically how moving image we explain, not actually like that, but uh, taking artwork or working with the artist who actually works with movement, whose works talks about movement. So looking at moving and movement from different angles, including the video work, sound work, any kind of performance. So any kind of work that gives you um, creates a movement inside you as well as in the audience. So those kind of work I chose and create a series of program. So I designed it in a way, chapter 1 and chapter 2 of this whole program in the one space. So the initial design was inspired from this infinite loop of the dualistic nature. So here you can see the 2 references. One is from one of my artist work film, Naim Muhammad's Grace. So where there was a tombstone with an infinite symbol of infinite loop. And from the Eastern philosophy, we know yin and yang is also a kind of infinite, talks about the nature of dualistic nature. So this kind of uh, emotion was going around, and I tried to hold that essence in the title of the logo. So where this whole program uh, talks like will continue this interconnectedness and continuous loop we're in. So that was my interest, making the whole logo. And then for in the from the program perspective, the chapter 1 and chapter 2 also talks about, the first chapter talks about the poetic ensemble of moving, what moving image could be, like looking at different kind of medias of moving image. Even sound artwork was there. And the chapter presented in the first chapter, I presented the artist, uh, the artwork which has kind of somatosensory interventions. So feeling the space and like intervening the space with the artwork. That was the main interest of this choosing this artwork. So the featuring artist was Afra Shafiq, Sil Floyer, Hiten Patel, Honkai Wang, Naim Mohammed, Ritu Sattar, Sharad Dash, Onok Dash, Susan Phillips, and Yasmin Jahan Nupur. So among these artists, 3 artists, Sil Floyer, Hiten Patel, and Susan Phillips' works were loaned from British Council collection. And the second chapter was designed in a pedagogic discursive format, led by artist and pedagogue Jihan Karim and Sorab Jahan with their 4 mentees from Abid Hassan, Arshadul Haq, Nazdin Ahmed, and Sadia Afroz, creating an opportunity to exercise and experiment with moving image as a media, given the current limited resources of study of moving image in Bangladesh. So the exhibition took the opportunity in the first chapter, like showcasing the globally renowned artist artwork, what moving image could be, And then in the second chapter, we invited these mentees or student or practitioners who can experiment with their own how like navigating what moving image is and how the language can be exercised. So then this whole dualistic approach was I tried to hold this in the venue or the space and the spatial design as well. So the conceptually designing this two chapter was also an attempt to play with the transition of movingness of an exhibition as a medium and exercising this critical spatial practice, especially connecting the site specificity and the context, natural and artificial light, and embodied experience of movement. Because if all the existing space was used as a meditation center, the the organization I worked with, their name is Satori Academy of Arts, but they're known for, this facility was known for meditation practice. So the work I was choosing, all of the work, I was talking about compassion, I was talking about grief and trauma. So I needed really a quiet and serene space which can amplify the artistic works to the audience. And being Dhaka being a very hectic and chaotic, crowded space, so it is very difficult to find a space where you can, where the outside sound doesn't seep in. So this place was kind of like that. So I will show you a small. Oh, sorry, wait. I think I have to. Can you hear me? No? So there was a the installation from outside. The Hong Kong was four sound pieces, and you can hear very limited vehicle sound from the outside, which is very unlikely in Dhaka. So whenever, whichever building you are in, there must be like sipping sounds from outside. Yeah. But this facility was not like that.
Kehkasha, sorry, just to say you're at 10 minutes. So if you've got
Yeah.
a couple of minutes.
So this is the whole idea of the exhibition. Like the exhibition also, the space you can enter from different side, and that's it. And I will just go through the artist, few of the glimpses of artist, the name I have just spoken. This is the Susan Phillips work. So this was also a 3-channel sound piece. So I'm not playing the videos, I'm just going over the, so the whole natural light and artificial light thing was interplay with this space. And this I think these both are video. I wouldn't play. So there is Shonika's work. Just it was kind of it was looking at the sound and tactile essence of a work, where when you can touch the work and it can interact with the audience. And there was Afra Shafiq's work that was a video, kind of a video game kind of a thing, which connects with nature, like the embroidery as a text. Very interesting game. And then there was Ritu Sattar's 6-channel video work. This is Silfla's Untitled. This is also in I tried to move around this work because this is a small work and it was kind of came to the audience as a surprise. Every day I moved the video in different venue in the spaces. So altogether, the most of the work was placed in a way where out inside and outside was explored, kind of giving a sense of movement to the audience. Like every day, the exhibition was shifting and morphing into the own space. So this is another project with sound and smell. This is Naim Muhammad's film. And this is the whole venue. So half of it was transformed for the second chapter, where the chapter which was focused on the like pedagogic intervention with the artist-led pedagogues workshop outcome were displayed. So they also explored with the kind of creating a new ecology of moving image. So there was manifesto, and the student tried to work with them and produced new productions. So overall, this whole project gave me a scope to exhibit few renowned international artists, and many of their renowned work, and also gave the opportunity to uh, like support few of the artists to produce new artworks, so which was great. And altogether this was an experience that I cherish with my whole life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kehkasha. Such a brilliant exhibition. Such a treat to hear you talk about it in this way. In conscious of times, I'm going to hand over to Sandev next. And then after Sarah has spoken, we will have time for questions, and you can also ask each other questions. So, yeah. Thanks, Sandev.
Thanks, folks. I hope you can see the presentation, and if that's okay.
All good.
I'm just going to the exhibition. Thank you also, Kehkasha, for that fantastic presentation. I think what you also did was cover the burden of context in some sense as to what these projects are about, and that we're working with moving images, and particularly the British Council Moving Image Collection. So thank you for that, which also allows us, I think, all to speak more about the work as well. My exhibition is titled Three Songs of Ceylon, and it, of course, translates differently in Sinhala and Tamil. And I want to maybe take this time to offer some brief reflections on sort of questions of pedagogy, presence, and unsettling. Essentially thinking through curatorial practice and some learnings that have emerged in and through sort of this exhibition project as well. Um, the the context in Sri Lanka is that I work at the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art, and we've always shown moving image works as part of our larger exhibitions. But then I think we've never really paid attention to how they are divided, how they are understood as a medium in and of themselves. We've always included them in larger exhibitions. That becomes particularly challenging, I think, in a context like Sri Lanka, where modern and contemporary art is already quite alienating to people, in given the lack of museums and institutions that have built this kind of pedagogical relationship between sort of accessing spaces that modern and contemporary art is shown. And then equally so, then showing moving images or video works, which is awkwardly enough seen as new media, becomes even more alienating to people in that sense, because it doesn't fit necessarily into the economy of art or the commercial sides of art. So as a museum, we both have a challenge of underscoring the importance of visual culture and art beyond the scope of the commercial, as a pedagogic, learning, and generative sort of framework of culture. But equally so, we have the challenge of then working with mediums like moving image. So that's something we really wanted to take up with this exhibition. And I took that up with this exhibition really by doing some might even say the awful task of trying to put together an exhibition of all moving image artwork as well. And you can imagine if you've installed a show or been in a show with all moving image artworks, after the third or fourth one, you're exhausted. It's a lot to move through and get through. So one of the ways in which I had to kind of conceptualize of this exhibition is through the lens of how do we think about pedagogy? How do we present this information to people? How do we give them the kind of information they need and create a space in which people feel like they can access and participate with the work? The second thing is how do we think about the presence of these moving image artworks and what they would do in the world, whether when they were made or in the exhibition? And how can we also, in reckoning with larger questions that the museum reckons with all the time, when it comes to questions of nation, when it comes to questions of how do we negotiate our identity through these through artworks, and how can artworks become a sort of a generative position for us to do that? How do we then kind of move into a curatorial work of helping people get unsettled and enter into sort of discussions? So the way I kind of approach that is through this one work. I'm sorry, it's a picture of me as well. It's the only good picture I could find with this work in there. But it's this work that I came across. Oh, it's well known, but it's a work from actually 1934 by the name. It's a work by the name of The Song of Ceylon. It's a work that was actually involved four artists who were really crucial in working on this film, but it was not intentioned as an artwork. It was intentioned as a tea propaganda film. It was actually commissioned by the Tea Propaganda Board while Ceylon was under British colonial rule to essentially, quite simply, sell more tea. This would have been shown in trade fairs. It would have been shown in theaters and schools and so on, just in terms of drumming up much more interest in international purchase of British colonial Ceylon tea. So I begin with this film because it's also quite a fascinating film. When this film was first shown in 1934, it was actually attacked quite a bit by a lot of news outlets saying this is not a documentary, this is not a film, it's more akin to an artwork. So then in and of itself, that becomes quite a fascinating starting point with which to engage with this film. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about how we dealt with showing 6 artworks, but equally so how the exhibition really emanates out of this film, about how essentially the exhibition is looking at how over the course of 100 years from the time of this film and around the time of this film, artists have historically responded to this film and tried to perhaps create their own takes and responses as well. Before I kind of maybe go in depth into the film, I just want to show you a picture. It's actually from this morning of a whole group of students coming in to the exhibition. And when you have an exhibition of 6 moving image films, each of them being between 3 minutes to 50 minutes long, you have an exhibition total viewing time of about 2.5 hours or 3 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And I know if there are other practitioners here as well, you'll know that that's a lot to ask from any gallery goer or museum goer in the first place. So one of the things we really had to think about is how do we reorient people to this idea of what does it mean to come and see an exhibition of artist films? The first thing, primarily, is to think about sort of articulating, perhaps for the sake of this exhibition, that we weren't necessarily seeing this as films as much as artworks. That is how artists use the medium of film to make artworks. And that was a very helpful distinction for us to make early on in the exhibition. The other thing that we do is, you're used to in an exhibition or even in a theater, you watch a film and then you have some text that you read or a catalog or a caption that you might read. One of the things that we did is extract perhaps the most important contextual information of the caption related to a particular artwork and actually pull it out before someone enters in and starts to watch the film. So what you're seeing here, you might not see in this photo, it's just to the left of this photo right here, but it's a section that was essentially takes some crucial information, contextual information, the kind of log line that you might see in a Netflix TV show or something like that. That kind of the initial description of the work that kind of makes you intrigued about the work. And we pull that out and offer that to people early on. And just by that simple task, we were able to kind of reduce perhaps someone's need to pass through the whole film to make sure if they want to watch through, for 10 more minutes or 30 more minutes of the film and so on. So that was more a pedagogical consideration. Those two are the factors. And then the other aspects that we introduced was, of course, educators in the gallery and captions that were hopefully very clearly kind of written as well. To speak more specifically about the film, it was a work that was made by Basil Wright, John Grierson, um, Lionel Went, and Walter Lay in 1934. It was a propaganda film. I'm not going to maybe talk about the film as much as walk you through the film. It opens with the scene that you see in front of me here, which is a scene of very dark foliage. Um, and it quickly gets replaced by very sort of mesmerizing movements and dancers and so on, overlaid by the sound of really intense drums. And the first bit of the film, which is divided into four parts, the first part ends with this face on your screen. Now, this was a tea propaganda film commissioned for a British audience in the 1930s. Just think what an assault on someone's sensibility this might have necessarily been. This kind of loud ritual drumming, these darkened scenes, and this face opens up. The second part of the film quickly switches to idyllic village life. Kids, in the middle of dancing, rituals, people, um, plowing paddy, or someone walking through a village, and so on. And then the final, and more people jumping into the water and going for a nice little swim in this sort of idyllic little paradise island also. Um, and and the final part of the film sort of turns to very sort of everyday rituals of going to visit a temple, going to um, offer prayers and things like that as a community. Now it's a fascinating film because one starts to ask, where is the tea? Where is the kind of propaganda for tea happening? And that's where I think part three really enters into the film. It's the shortest part and the smallest part of the film, in which you have this sort of ship enter, the sound of the drums and the sound of bells and beautiful sort of idyllic village music, or these exotic drums get replaced by the sound of telegram machines or telegraph machines, ship horns, and equally so scenes of plantation workers and large industrialization as well. Mala, how am I doing on
We're at
time?
10
I
minutes,
see a
but
clock.
as I said, Kehkasha had a bit more time, so you also but don't
We're,
rush. And if once you're ready, you're ready.
we're coming to the end, yes. So what this film essentially was doing was presenting this sort of exotic, mystical, and sort of idyllic vision of a place, and within that, essentially inserting this large-scale industrialization as something that was quite frankly indigenous to the country when it wasn't. It was a British colonial introduction. I paired this work, and this is where we're kind of thinking about this idea of presence, is what is this film doing in the world when it is initially produced? And I paired this film with another work by Roslyn Nashashibi from the British Council collection. It's a 2-minute film, 3-minute film, in which one walks in and sees black and white grainy footage of what one might think is a bazaar or souk, with this sort of Egyptian Arabic love song playing over the background. The work is fundamentally a sensory misdirection because most people who come to the exhibition think it was made in the 30s or 40s or 50s, but it turns out it was only made in the 2000s. And in this, what Rasin Ashribi is essentially doing is kind of giving us all the trappings of a colonial, exoticized sort of film, only to realize it's shot in the 2000s at a Salvation Army jumble sale in Glasgow, Scotland. By pairing these two works together, um, and imagine someone seeing the first film that I showed and then moving to the Roslyn Nashashibi film, taking that in and then returning back to this initial film. How do we start to read the relationship between titles like The Virgin Island or The Voices of Commerce in this sort of initially sort of idyllic film presentation? And that unsettling that happens through another artwork, through the vector of another artwork, where you're able to move through one artwork and return to the other, only to question what you've just saw, is perhaps one of the kind of curatorial ideas that this show was trying to look at. What the show eventually later does, while that film is from 1934, it pairs it with responses from 1985 by Lalin Jayamana that takes a feminist, that attempts to make a feminist take on that initial film and really ask the question of how does this kind of one singular narrative of a place get reduced into sort of leave people out. And so Lalin Jayamana attempts to bring the stories of women into the narrative, and equally so tries to break this idea of a very dominant narrative of a place. She titles this work, instead of The Song of Ceylon, A Song of Ceylon. And we paired that with another Unsettler, which is another work from more recent times, where Imad Majid and Sharika Navamani are re-editing a famous Tamil film by the name of Kadal Desam. That's telling the story of a classic love triangle, and they've edited it into a queer love story. So again, these two, Lalin Jayaman is asking perhaps where the women are in the film and the roles that they play in narrative making. And then Imad Majid and Sharika Navamani are extending that work into the contemporary and asking what happened to, or why is there no queer narratives in the films? And they're looking particularly at films in the 90s as well. And then the final work is another work that returns back from, it's a work by Mark Lepore, in which he comes to Sri Lanka in 1996 to try and remake this initial Song of Ceylon film, only to realize that Sri Lanka has changed and been drastically transformed by the war, and uses the voiceover of a news reporter who's narrating the bombings of the central bank as a means to uh, talk about, to resist the kind of colonial voiceover of a place or narrative of a place, and instead give you a sense of a more neutral take of a place, about a place or context. And we've paired that with this work by Bani Abidi. It's the final work in the show that essentially is an Indian newscaster and Pakistani newscaster telling the kind of same story. Essentially, what the show does is look at a period of 125 years, starting from this one particular film, and tries to think about how other films and other responses have unsettled it over a period of time. And maybe I'll conclude with saying that's really maybe the more pedagogical approach, that curatorial learnings of working with the films, that these are perhaps not films through which you see something, but as works themselves, they have been historical actors in the world. And that's really what I was aiming to get at with this exhibition.
Thank you so much, Sandev. It looks fantastic, and congratulations on having it launched and doing all your curatorial tours today and doing this talk. So it's really great. I'm going to hand over to Sarah for the last presentation, and then we'll open the floor. Well, if people are ready for questions, if not, I'll ask a few questions of my own. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm just gonna share my screen. Mala, please let me know if it's visible.
You're all good.
Okay, thank you. I'm just gonna start. So my exhibition for the program was called Seeing Theme, and I will get to the meaning of it. I've done my bio already. I work a lot with digital art and digital media through Lahore Digital Arts Festival, and through it I've done large scale festivals with a lot of digital art, video work, moving image work, and installations. And before I go into like the details of my exhibition, I want to acknowledge all the labor that goes into all exhibitions. It's not just one person and one idea. It's like a collective. So I just want to say, thank you to my team that worked on it, and as well as the partners like the British Council, Lux, ASAP, the Lahore Digital Arts Festival, and all. And my exhibition wasn't just inspired by one thing, but multiple factors as part of this program. Uh, as part of this program, we had monthly discussions. We had a research trip to the UK where we had lots of discussions with other curators and artists. We visited the British Council and saw other works in the art collection. We had lots of discussions with the mentors and our cohort as well, Kehkasha, Sandev, and Bunu and Anuj. And so my exhibition was kind of inspired by everything collectively. And so my exhibition explores moving image as a space of fluidity and disruption, one that embraced unconventional ways of seeing and sensing. I took inspiration from the moving image itself, as well as, all the things I mentioned. Because like historically, the moving image has always existed at the margins of contemporary art and cinema. So it's hard to categorize, it's hard to commodify, it's difficult to sell. You don't see it a lot in Pakistan. So I wanted And my show was based in Pakistan, so I wanted it to, be relevant in local context. So the exhibition highlights how the moving image operates outside of these dominant frameworks and challenges them. So you see a lot of like works that are non-linear, fragmented, looping, abstract, disjointed. And so in the exhibition, the moving image is not seen as a medium, but a methodology, an alternate way of being, perceiving, seeing, and creating. So this is the concept note that I gave to the artists that I invited to the show, and they responded to it. And I want to talk about the name of the show now, Seeing Seen. This was one of the initial drafts that my designer Ifra worked on. This part, the letter seen is in Urdu, and I just really like the playful, the double meaning of it. And then I came to this final graphic made by Ifra. When you're, yeah, maybe if you can't hear the sound, it's okay. But I also incorporated moving image work in my branding and marketing as well, which I thought was very important, especially for a show exploring the moving image. And my exhibition was hosted at the National Art Gallery at the Pakistan National Council of the Arts in Islamabad. This institutional context is very important because the PNCA, it normally you see a lot of traditional art forms here, painting, sculpture. It also hosts its own sculptural and painting and visual art collection. They don't, like you don't see a lot of moving image work or experimental work. So I think this was also very relevant to my concept as well. This was the layout for my exhibition. It was on the ground floor in essentially a big L-shaped hall, and I had around 23 pieces of work and 4 works with audio, which I had to manage in a space that was very echoey. So I created these 2 temporary rooms that were soundproof. And I'm going to quickly go through some visuals from the exhibition just to give you a feel about the exhibition. And then I'm going to quickly try to talk about a couple of these works as well. I feel like for a moving image exhibition, it's really important to also talk about the space because it's extremely challenging to curate moving image work and so much of it in one space. We also had an artist talk as part of the program where some of the artists talked about their creative process and the work and the exhibition and the moving image. These are some images from the opening night with artists. So I'm going to talk about the artists now. I had 7 Pakistani artists and 2 British artists in the exhibition. I had given them the draft of the concept note as it was still developing, and I asked the artists that they could display either new work, they could either create new work for the show or display existing work. So 5 of the artists chose to create new work for the exhibition, and I was part of the creative process as well. I'd have calls with them weekly and bi-weekly, get updates, help out or advise wherever I could. But I didn't, tell them what to make or anything like that. First, I'm going to talk about Abdul Hadi and his work. I curated 3 of his works, which were animated works. You see these everyday objects that are kind of in this surreal choreography. It's supposed to mirror unresolved, repetitive rhythms of public life. And these are like chai dhaba chairs, if you recognize them. These are like chairs you see in government institutes and or like schools. So I curated his work right at the beginning, and I'm just gonna so that was the work. I'm just gonna I'm conscious of time, so I'm gonna try to go through it quickly. And this is Farida Batul. This Abdul Hadi's work was existing work. Farida's was also existing. I curated three. This was one series, this was another, and this was another. This is Farida's work. It has no sound. It's called 1001 Nights. It's a series of 4 videos recorded in different time and space that are layered. It's a video story of contemporary Shahzad. These are stories of sensuality, travels, desires, life experiences. This kind of sets the tone for the exhibition and is the first work in the exhibition. Then we have these lenticular prints by Farida. It's called On the Margin. It's on the idea of a garden, and you see some barbed wire over here. So it's it's personal, it's political, it has religious context as well, talking about you know spaces and who's allowed in these spaces and who's kept out. I want to talk about lenticular prints. This is a type of printing in which you can see multiple images as you move in different locations. I hope that that kind of shows you. So this is a really rare form of medium that you see in Pakistan, and Farida is one of the few artists who does it. These are other works of hers that were curated in the space. I'm going to talk about the British Council work now. This is by John Wood and Paul Harrison, who are an artist duo working together since 1993. They create these performance art videos that are minimalist, that are about like tragedy, comedy, and irony. And I'm going to talk about their work. It's a video work in which you see this corner, which looks like a cube, and these ropes start moving around, and you're really confused, and then you start hearing these sounds as well, like a chugging steam engine, like a steam train, and it gets louder and louder and louder. And in the end, what happens is that it creates this chair that you see over here, and it's it creates this drawing using these ropes, and the work draws attention to off-screen labor and unseen processes of artists and creatives, reminding us that meaning is often produced elsewhere beyond the frame. It's a really mesmerizing piece, and I curated it in this big black room, and it was a very bright piece, so um it's very engaging, and the sound design is also like.
Sorry, Sarah. You have just gone over 10 minutes,
Yeah.
so just wrap it up.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna talk very quickly about some of the artwork. This is Kesar Khan. This was a work commissioned for the exhibition. He worked on this journal for 4 months. He is an Irish Pakistani artist, and this work was a very personal work about his experience of not knowing where he belongs, if he belongs, there or here. So it's kind of about his diasporic experience. And he has this asemic writing that he did in his journal for 4 months. And this was the journal that we digitized, and he created a video work out of it called The Language of the Birds. So him just navigating a liminal space, and the asemic writing is basically just like just random mark making. It doesn't have any meaning. And this is how we curated it on the floor, and you could walk around the space as well. And it also had really strong sound as well, so it was very engaging as well. Kids really loved it. Kids really enjoyed the shows as well because um, it was like something different. So I'm going to go very quickly to Manur Ali Shah. She created this work based on her experience of being epileptic, and we projected it on this curtain that had some significance to her experience of being epileptic as well growing up. And what we didn't realize is that this would be translucent, and then it ended up projecting on the wall, which was a nice surprise element in the work. This also had sound. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to take one more minute of your time. So this work is by Ujala Khan and Muhammad Ali Hayat Khan. This was a collaborative work that they did from their notebook series, where they painted this large canvas. It was 4 by 7 feet. They painted it collectively together. So it's an intimate look into the dynamics of their creative process and also their partnership. They're married and they have their own personal practices, and they also have their collaborative practice as well. And it was an extremely layered piece, and they created a 10-minute stop motion animation of the whole process. It didn't have any sound. So people really, enjoyed this as well, seeing the entire process, because it was extremely layered. You can also see their journal pages and sketchbooks. And then the last artist is Rabia Adnan. She created this work as well, commissioned work for this exhibition, where we displayed her two works on phone screens in an installation with a bench. And these works were, she had taken video footage from the archives of Cooper Union from the AV department and manipulated them. And this work is supposed to be like a little quiet moment of discovery in the exhibition. They're on really small screens. The phone screens are the smallest we could find. And her work talks a lot about intimacy and power structures as well. And you can see her work over here. You can see Kesser's work over here, and you go inside over there. And yeah, this is my last slide. Visitors had a really great experience. It was something very different, and they felt that it was very emotional, and it gave them a new perspective and gave them and inspired them to create something as well. So I'm really glad that people had a really positive response to it, and I'm very grateful to be part of this program where I could explore all this experimental work and experimental way of curating. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm conscious of time, but thank you so much, Sarah, for doing a wonderful presentation. I don't think I'd had a moment to learn about your exhibition yet, so it's been really nice to see all the works. I'm going to ask a question of all of you, and if people have questions, please do ask them. We probably have about 10-15 minutes left, and it would be lovely to have the audience ask some questions. But my question is, I'm going to start in the order we presented. But so how do you really, obviously, you can see how much you guys have learned and developed. You already were brilliant curators before you started, but it's amazing to see how the program has kind of shaped the shows that you've put on and will continue to. And I just kind of wanted to ask, I know, Kehkasha, you may already have an answer for us, but how the learning and training from this program is kind of informing your future projects and career development. Can be short term, can be long term, but I'll start with Kehkasha.
Okay, so the thing is, I have been working as an independent curator for past 12 years around, but the problem is, like I said, where I started curating in a, I wouldn't say broken structure, but the structure is not fit for holding up the contemporary artwork or spaces or the practice of contemporary curating. So it was really challenging to pursue as a independent curator, like funding, like everything, like exhibiting artwork without curating artwork without fund is really difficult. So first of all, with this program, the fund we got to curate the whole curate and plan on our own in exhibition program, that was huge. And that gave us the further opportunity to explore the other sides, which we often miss to do, like bringing international artist artwork in loans. So learning about those things. And there was the mentoring from ASAP team, Noor, Mala, and from Lux Moving Image, Ben. So I was really grateful to having your full support and intellectual mentorship around the program we discussed over the year and developed. So that gave me and managing, and after that, these intellectual inputs and the funding like gave gave me personally a kind of attitude toward any kind of project that I can see in future I can do it myself, because the gaps or the lacks I had, uh, I feel like I have learned a lot from this program, like managing the whole thing altogether. So yeah, for me it was a great opportunity to participate and work with you, all of you guys.
And I was just referring to Kehkasha, but you have another program you're working on as a result of this program. So I wanted you to shout out about that if you
Yeah. So the thing is, I have been working in Bangladesh for like most of the local artists or local institutions knows about my work, but particularly working with British Council is the first time. This is the first time I worked with British Council, and after this project and the British Council team was excellent support. And after this project completion, we built a relationship like further, and it was a kind of trusted relationship. And uh, there was a next call for culture Culture Through Connection, so which is known as CTC grant. So me and Ben were like talking about my mentor Ben for from this program. We were talking about moving image a lot and like looking at how the landscape of moving image in Bangladesh. So we developed a project and applied, like got that grant to pursue for next year, and we are planning to like design a more engaged moving image based project and showcase it in Bangladesh and UK. So it will be more expansive than this one, I believe.
Fantastic. Thanks, Akasha. I can't wait to see more of that. Sandev, over to you. If you need me to repeat the question, I can.
I think I got it
Great.
also just in terms of you were asking about like yeah how does it inform future work
Yeah,
and how does this kind
development.
of help.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think one of the things when I was working on this exhibition, I mean, I think I mentioned this earlier that we had on one end it's the understanding of moving image as and the discourses around moving image, and the way in which people in general related to it here in exhibitions and how practitioners related to it. But part of it is also that as I was doing research for this exhibition, you also notice these huge gaps in practitioners working with moving image. And so this exhibition, I think, presented a real opportunity for us to start a conversation amongst artists and practitioners and students around what it means to make moving image from here on out, or turn towards these practices and look at it as sort of artifacts in some ways that act on the world. So I think that was perhaps the larger big idea help. But equally so, it's also been coming around partnerships as well. So one of the things that we were really able to accomplish this time is partnerships with other organizations, arts organizations, and with schools. So I don't know what I was just mentioning this to you, Mala, just before the call. I don't know what it is, but some reason when the schools have started hearing about moving image and exhibition of moving image or exhibition of artists' films, we've had a real interest from across the board. When usually it's very hard to build up that interest with teachers in Sri Lanka. So I think that's been really fascinating. It's pulled my team or our team into this wider education team into writing lesson plans that are more moving image focused, aligning it with school curriculums so that when the schools are visiting, they're not just coming for a tour, they're coming for a lesson plan that aligns with their curriculums. But the sort of enthusiasm, I think, with teachers and education institutions has been, to be honest, quite surprising. And I think that's been really quite amazing. But also partners. So we've been able to partner with the folks at Barefoot, which is another arts organization, Barefoot Gallery. And we're doing like a 1 minute film festival in which we've had 60 applications of 1 minute films, and we can only show 30, unfortunately. But such an incredible list, and we're hosting a 1 minute film night and a couple of other tours. And finally, I think it's also partnerships internationally. So as part of this exhibition, we were actually able to digitize and show, fundraise for, and digitize and license this film by Mark Lapo, which was shot in Sri Lanka in the 90s. And Mark has unfortunately passed away. But it's the first time it's being shown in Sri Lanka. It's the first time it's been digitized, so it can be shown much wider as well. So those are these little, quite important, at least to me, feel very significant things that have come out of this project as well. And then just the training, also understanding, making sense of how we make sense of moving image. I think curatorial and as a practitioner has been really, really huge.
Thank you, Sandev. I love the idea of the 1 minute film festival. Sounds brilliant. Over to Sarah, and then there's one question in the chat that we probably have time for, and then we'll probably wrap up.
Thank you so much. I agree with Sandev when he talked about the gaps that you see. I think this project really showed me a lot of gaps in curating, not just curating moving image work, but also the gaps that practitioners have, that artists have, because there's not a lot of moving image work that I see in Pakistan and not a lot of mentorship for it. So I think and in my exhibition, most of the artists that I worked with were emerging and mid-career artists. There were only like 3 senior artists in the exhibition. And something that I'm taking forward in my practice is more like mentorship sort of work as a curator and a practitioner myself for emerging artists or even mid-career artists, any artist who need some sort of help and guidance in their practice. I worked on the 4th edition of the Lahore Digital Arts Festival in the winter, and in that I took my learnings from this program and executed them. In that I held like things like artist circles where there were like informal spaces where the artists could just like openly talk to each other. I think things like that you don't see in Pakistan that much, so I'm looking forward to curating more things like that and helping young artists develop their practice. And I worked with 5 artists on commission work for this exhibition, which is such a privilege for them as it is for me, because you don't see a lot of moving image artists, getting recognized for their work or getting paid. I think, like Kasha said, the funding is such a big factor in all of it. It's extremely expensive to display moving image work, especially in Pakistan, which lacks the infrastructure. The galleries don't have any equipment, any technicians. You have to find people here and there. You have to figure out a lot of things yourself. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This is a big question, so maybe you guys can just do a little bite-sized response on this. Really big question. I would not want to be asked it, so I'm glad you're getting asked it. But as curators, what are you looking for at this moment in time? What type of artwork do you think is most critical in the present context you find yourself in, institutionally, globally, or personally? Big question. So if you want to do a little bite-sized response, please do, and then we can wrap up.
I can start with the initial question. So, for me personally, I think I don't know, every curatorial practice has also its own limitations and its own kind of differentiate practices. The way I curate, the way Sandev curate, and the way Sarah curate, we have our own motive to choose the choice of work, choice of artist, the choice of dialogue or discussion, how we build around it. So the type of the work we will be looking for at the moment it's very personal. It's a person to person thing. I don't think we have the leverage to like open up a discussion what kind of work we like. But maybe from my perspective, I can tell that I am more into contemporary artworks and the artworks that talks around time and context, the contemporary notion and the context I'm living in. So if it's relatable and relational to my context, I feel like the medium doesn't matter what medium I'm looking at. But I'm a little bit biased with more time-based medias. So moving image performance or any kind of new technological work that can challenge the audience in any way, that sort of work I more look into. And the globally, I think um, the more work is those kind of work is more accessible right now, which can travel without the shipping and those kind of using those kind of infrastructure. So yeah, so moving image could be one of the type that fits in the both ways from my perspective.
Thanks, Kehkasha. Sandev and Sarah, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Sandev,
Go
you
ahead,
can
Sarah.
go first. Okay, thank you. I was just gonna reflect on what Kikasha was saying as well. Like, it's not just about what is crucial in the present context. It's also about what are your goals or what are things that you want your work to be about? What are your, and oftentimes it becomes about what things you value and want to work on or want to display and show people and talk about. So I think it's a very big open question, and Yakasha answered it perfectly. And I'm just gonna, mirror the same and say that it just depends from person to person. I also work a lot with, I curate digital art a lot. I also have a graphic design background as well. So I also paint as well. I'm a visual artist as well. So my approach is more interdisciplinary, and I feel that more and more people are becoming more interdisciplinary, which I understand, and like I like that the world is becoming more interdisciplinary. There's no difference between like, oh, new media art and things like that. So yeah, I'm gonna hand it over to Sandev now.
Thanks, Phil. I think those are really I think very helpful entry points into it. Um, I think to answer the second half of the question, which is what kind of artwork do you think is most critical in the present context you find yourselves in? I mean, it's both a lazy and I feel like also a precise answer to say that all artwork is critical in the time that we're living in. So then that I think for me raises a question of the earlier part of the question, which I think behind that maybe is a question about power, right? Like, what does it mean for us as curators to be looking for particular kinds of practices, or being sort of the arbiters of practices kind of thing. And I think maybe that's also the false equivalency with how maybe curators are seen as, the gatekeepers and the artists are seen as the prophets, and somehow these two work together to make something. I think um, I think maybe it's we need to have a kind of a different conversation about what it is that we do when we curate, or what it is that one makes when you make art. I think, yeah, so I think really the question at the beginning, like, what are we looking for, really is a question about power, right? In that sense, I'm not looking for anything. Um, the practices exist, and I'm trying to be sensitive to them and trying to connect them to things that matter to me and are close to me. Um,
Thanks, Sandev. And that's a And Mohammed says thank you. But I think that's a brilliant, lovely way to wrap up this conversation. Thank you to everyone who's joined us. Thank you, Kehkasha, Sarah, and Sande for being so open and generous with sharing your exhibitions and all your research. And it's been a delight getting to know you or getting to know you more through this program. So thank you again to everyone. Have a lovely weekend. This will be shared on our website in the coming weeks. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I
everyone.
also
Thank
want to
you.
thank ASAP, the team of ASAP, and British Council, UK and Bangladesh part, and also Lux Moving Image, and especially Ben. And I look forward for, I hope this art exchange moving program will continue next seasons as well. So one is already going on with probably in South Africa and Sub-Sahara, your open call. So I wish best of luck, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone as well,
Thank you so
and
much.
also to British
Bye-bye.
Council Sri Lanka, which we haven't mentioned, but really, I think appreciate this kind of large network of partnerships that ASAP and Lux are able to kind of bring together, and then from there on out, more these connections start to build, and I think those are really crucially important, especially when so much is maybe collapsing around us, and so much of the institutions that we have relied on ceasing to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm just gonna do my quick thank yous as well to ASAP, Noor, Mala, Kuhu, Lux, Ben, British Council. Just everyone was instrumental in, my exhibition and the way that it turned out, the way that it did, and it's like changed my curatorial thinking and practice as well, and I'm very grateful to be part of this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, I am going to say good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and have a lovely weekend. And thanks for joining us.
You too. Bye-bye.